Okay, good morning to all. We're up to the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis. By means of a background, just to review briefly, we saw in yesterday's Gemara, two previous Gemaras, the concept of Issa Chalal Issa. We got into it if a man had relations with a woman who was his brother's wife, in addition to the sister of his brother's wife, in addition to the sister of his wife, right? Whether you chayiv twice, chayiv once. Rabbi Yossi said you chayiv twice. Rabbi Shimon said you chayiv once. And Issa Chalal Issa. We asked Rabbi Yossi. We got into the chilik, but different in an Issa Moisif and an Issa Kailo. And Issa Moisif we described as when a person is, even though he's also, you're getting an additional issa from other people. In other words, so let's say someone was his wife's sister was assa to him, and then his brother marries the sister. Since Eisha Sach, all the other brothers are becoming assa. That issa is most of it adds that onto him. And this koil we said is where he's assa and you're not adding anything onto him. Other things are just becoming assa. So I'll give you a classic example. The zor cannot do avoida in the Beis Hamikdash. Now comes Shabbos, it can do an avoida period. So that the koilol that would incorporate the other ones. And that was called Issa Koilol. We described something called Issa B'vasachas. The case we gave was Malika. If you go ahead, you take a bird, that's a carbon, and it's right now it's asa to everybody. It's kodesh. There's an issa of me'ila by kachim. Even the kahanim cannot use it. But as soon as you do malika, as soon as you go ahead and perforate the skin and knock out the kind of eveshet, which is called nevela, because it's not a shchita, it's called nevela. One can eat nevela. If a zor eats it, he'd be chayiv twice. Once for zoris and once for what? And for nevela. There's a case where it comes with vasachas. So it could be, even if you don't hold, if it's a koilel, you would hold with vasachas. So we have those three descriptions of issa chalal issa. One is a moisif, which seems to be, everyone seems to hold of. It's a koilel, which could be a machlokes, and it's a vasachas. In addition, could be a machlokes, depending upon some difficult, intense Gemara that we did yesterday. Okay, so now we have to go ahead. As a brief summary, we're going to give you a very interesting case. We're going to have a case where wives get mixed up, and as a result of their wives getting mixed up, we can have a slew of isurim, and depending on what you hold, it's a koilel, it's a moisef, is going to make a nafkamin in halacha. Says the Mishnah, Shnaim shekishu shtei nashim, two people are mekadesh two women, and therefore they were married to these women. However, b'shas kinisason lechuppah, when they came to the second stage of marriage, which is called nisuin, they came to live together. Hechlifu eshel zeh ve'eshel zeh. They got mixed up. This one and this one got mixed up. Now, it's mashma that they mixed them up. The Gemara is going to ask, we're saying halacha b'rishayim? We're not. So the Gemara says, if they got mixed up, this one, hari'elu chayavim, what are you chayav for? Here's your batting order. Hari'elu chay mishum eishis ish. Again, I'm with another man's wife, that's eishis ish. V'im hoyu achin. And if these two men were brothers, additionally, besides Eishes Ish, you be Chai Mishum Eishes Ach, your brother's wife. So there are your two Isurim, another man's wife and your brother's wife. From Hoya Chaya said, if the two women were sisters, we can throw on a third Isser, Mishum Eishes Isha Elachaisa. You're not supposed to go ahead and live with the sister of your wife. From Hoya Nidais, and if they were Nidais, Mishum Nida. That would go ahead and give us a total of 4 Chiyuvim. One else Eishes Ish, one else Eishes Ach, one else Achas Ishtoy, and one else Nida. Okay, let's just outside right now go through what category they would be in. No, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go right there. Says I'll do it later. Now, after the mishap, you have to go ahead and separate them because again, guys, this is called in the Hebrew vernacular havchana. Havchana means to discern. We have to know if they give birth, whose child it is. If you don't separate 3 months, it might be a 9 month to the first husband or a 7th month to the second husband. So to discern the father of the child, again, this is before DNA testing. Again, Bisman Hazeh, that'd be an interesting shot. Would you need Havchana Bisman Hazeh because of DNA testing? A woman is a widow. She gets married a week after her husband dies, a little quickly, and she has a child. Whose child is it? Well, usually you wouldn't have to wait 3 months. Question, I'm just throwing this out. With DNA testing, why would you have to wait? We should be able to ascertain who the father of the child is, right? Just again, what?
For a call, you don't want to rumor on the kid anyways.
So Moshe wants to time that for maybe for the yichus of the child, people should know who the child is. Okay, interesting. Anyway, so Umafishna says Shalish Chadashim, after this mishap, you would go ahead and separate them for 3 months. Shem would bury, saying maybe she's pregnant from the first husband. If the katanis that you don't have this concern, you go ahead and be able to reunite them right away, miyad, which is kind of questionable because if they did this isser on purpose, we know it's asal abal v'asal aboil. If the relation happened willingly, b'mezid, then he can't take her back. So why are we going ahead and offering her back, right? If they were what? If they were married to Kahanim, they would be puzzled from the Kahuna. This is called the Issa of a Zona. We said earlier, a Zona is not a what we would call a prostitute. A Zona is that act of snus took place. She was with somebody she shouldn't have been with. Says the Gemara, Hichlifu, it means they switch. Midi Bereshia Skinon. Are we dealing with Rishayim? Right? Really, guys, the Gemara could have given the same thing with Shogeg. In other words, there's two kashas over here. When I learned the Gemara, I said, well, Pashit, we're dealing with Rishayim, where you have to give a halacha for Rishayim. And the answer is, you'd have the same scenario without Rishayim. Even if it was done b'shogeg, you would go ahead and have the same 4 chiyuvim was done b'shogeg. So why do you have to learn a case of ichlifu when you could have said the case b'shogeg? In fact, that's what the Gemara answers. Besu hadutani rabchia harikan shish esrei chatois. Over here, you have 16 carbon chatas, fellas. You have how many individuals involved over here? 4. You have 4 individuals, the 2 men and the 2 women. If each one has to bring a 4 chatas, 4 times 4 is 16. So therefore, the ibn mezid, if it's speaking where hichlifu, where they did ibn mezid, miyika carbon, is there a carbon? There's no carbon for a mezid. A carbon is only for a shogeg. Anything that would be chayiv, a chorus b'mezid, brings a chatas b'shogeg. Some Rabbi Yehuda don't learn hichlifu, but tani huchlafu. Hichlifu means they switched, guys. Huchlafu if they got switched. In other words, it is a shogeg. It's speaking where it's a shogeg. Now, hachanami mistabra, to say it's speaking it's a shogeg. The tani seifa, because the seifa says im hoya ketanos she'ena ruyas leiled. If they're ketanos that one roy to give birth, machsir samiyad, you can take them back. The ibn mezid misharya. And no, but we said over here that you have an option that you go ahead and you take back the katana. If it's speaking b'mezid that they had an illicit affair, then how could you take them back? Ella, by the fact you could take them back, unless we're speaking b'shogeg, the Gemara now does away with that. The Gemara says no, that you have no raya. Why? Because holy kasha is no raya. Pitu katana or honest. When you talk a katana into doing something, this is considered an honest. Honest be Yisrael mishra shari, and an honest to a person from Yisrael is permitted. A kohen, an honest is not permitted, but for Yisrael would be permitted. So the fact that you could take the katana back is in fact not a raya that they did it willingly. Could that they did it unwillingly? Maybe they did it willingly, and still you could take it back. But here is a good raya. Ella, you want a good raya that it's speaking b'shogeg? Here's your raya. You go ahead and separate for 3 months. Shema mu'beres mashma hoylav mu'beres. If she was mu'beres, shaya, you will be able to take it back. Right? The only reason you're separating because you want to know is that she mu'beres. Mashma, right? If she wasn't mu'beres, you could take it back. If it's b'mezid, how are you allowed to take it back? Everybody have to conclude. Here we have to conclude that huchlafu they were switched. Okay, now let's go over the different possible. How is it possible for these 4 all to be on one person? In other words, you obviously it must be some type of case of isser chalal issa. It must be some case where one is chal on another issa. That's not going to work. Must be one is chal on another issa. So, for example, Eshes ish, okay, that's only one issa. If she was your brother's wife as well, meaning the 2 men in here was brother, so at the time of the zanus, bevas achas, you were over into isurim. You were over in the isur of another man's wife and your brother's wife. So this is an isser that transpired b'vasachas. This is an isser that transpired b'vasachas. Right, guys, you got it? again, it wasn't Issachal. So this is the most easiest of the idea. This was the one that seemed to be most people were asking to, that Bavas Achas, even Reb Shimon would hold Issachal according to one opinion yesterday. Why? So therefore we know that our Mishnah is speaking in case of Bivas Achas, since the Isser of Eshes Ish, a man's wife, and Eshes Ach, a brother's wife, are chal at the same time. Now, Achas Ishtoi, well, how would Achas Ishtoi be? That would work Ayadei Koilo. If they're what? If they're sisters, right? If they're sisters. So since you went ahead and when you married one of the sisters, the other sister was Asa, so that is Koilel all sisters. That's Koilel all sisters. So therefore, if you're going to, each one is going to be Chayiv for Achas Ishto, that would work as Isser Koilel. You're Asa because of Eshesach, you're Asa because of Eshesach. And now, where does Achas Ishto come in? How's that? If you hold Ein Issa Chalalissa, how could Achas Ishto be when your brother goes ahead and is Mekadesh what the other woman is? This is Achas Ishto, because when Mekadesh the other woman, it now becomes Asa what on all other sisters. So that would be Issa Kailol, and Nida would be an Issa Moisef, guys. A Nida, what does that mean? She's mutter to her husband now. She becomes a Nida, so now she's not only Asa to her husband, she's Asa to everybody. By being Asa to everybody, it's Moisef on you. So our Mishnah, the four things, Eshes Ish, Eshes Ach B'vas Achas, Achas Ishta Kailel, Nida is Issa Moisef. So now you need all four. You need to find a Mandama who would hold all four. You need a Mandama who would hold all four.
Could all come in at Bas Achas.
But we had neither that.
Brothers on the couch at the same time as she starts becoming Nida at that same moment.
Okay, I don't know. Anyway, but again, I think we want to. I'm not sure about Nida. I'm not sure if you know, would have to be meaning she's.
That's a condition.
I'm not sure she's a Nida at that point. I'm not sure. It have to be like she was mutter, and then she becomes a Nida, creates the so she was never a Shas Heta according to that. Now says the Gemara. Uman hai Amid Aleph. Uman hai Tana the Islay Issa Kailo. Again, Issa Kailo, we said that was the case of Achas Ishtoi. Issa Moisef, that was Nida. The Issa B'vas Achas, that was Eshes Ish and Eshes Ach. Who is the Tana who would hold all four? So Rabbi Yehuda, Rav, Reb Meir. It would be Reb Meir. So now Reb Meir is going to give a case, and we'll have a corollary from that case to these four dinim. The Tanya, Yesh Oichel Achila Achas. It's possible to eat one thing, and by eating that one thing, v'chayv aleha arba chatois v'osham echad. You be chayiv 4 chatos and 1 osham. Meaning, guys, 4 of these cases is an issakaris, and one of them you'd have to be a carbon osham me'ila. Good. So let's just a little background. In Kachim, there's parts that go to Hashem, there's parts that go to us. The part that goes to us is certain meats. The part that goes to Hashem is called the Imurim. The Chelev, the Issa Chelev is the Imurim, it goes to Hashem. So one, you're eating Kachim, that it's not yours, no right to eat. If it's left out overnight, there's an Issa Noiser. When something's left out overnight, you can't eat it, right? 3, there's a problem of what? Of zarus, that you're a zar eating kachim, and also eating the isra of chelev. So watch. The Tanya. Yesh oichel echila achas v'chayv le'arba chatas v'oshem echad. Tamei, if he's tamei, again tamei is one. If a tamei eats kachim, he's chayv karis. So tamei is 1. She'achal chelev is an isakaris is 2. Chelev is an isakaris is 2. There you go. Noiser, it was left out overnight, is 3. Now again, the fact that it's chelev, guys, is the part that goes to Hashem. Minam mukdashim, so you're moil behegdish, right? Be Yom Kippur, and you're over the Isra of Yom Kippur. Reb Meir says an additional 5th one Im hoye Shabbos, if it was Shabbos, for hoytziu bepiv, and you carry out in your mouth, obviously this ton of holes that hoytza on Yom Kippur you'd be potter for, or else why would you have to give Shabbos for an issa of hoytza? We hold carrying on Yom Kippur is usser, so you wouldn't have to go ahead and bring in Shabbos to create the issa of transporting something, right? But Rabbi Meir held that there is no issa of hoytza by Yom Kippur, which is one opinion. Hoytziz bepiv chayev. So now let's go through these different surim and give them the category. It's a long Rashi. I went through the Rashi. Let me summarize what Rashi says. Okay, first, when an animal is born, there's an isachelev. There's never a shas heter for that achila, right? It's asa. You can't eat chelev. You can't eat chelev. Now, when the chelev was left out overnight, it became nicer. So now, when it's asa, when it was chelev, when it became kodesh, it becomes kachim, guys. Now, that adds the issa of hana. You were moisef and issa. Again, chelev is asa ba'achila. When you made it, the animal to a carbon, you made it asa b'hana. Only Hashem could use it. No one can eat this. It's asa b'hana. The mizbeach gets it, but you don't get it. So that's an issa moisef. I already have issa chelev, but now it becomes asr on everyone else als hana, which was mutter before. Now it becomes issa. That's issa ma'asif. So from chelev becoming kodesh, I have issa ma'asif. Good. Now noiser, it becomes asr to the mizbeach, right? That adds to the kahanim. So that's another issa ma'asif, right? So, but when it comes noiser, the kahanim normally could eat something here. They can't because it becomes. Now 3, if it becomes tamei. Now, once this becomes tamei, the person becomes tamei, then he's tamei on every other piece of kodesh. That's an issa kailo. So issa moisif is you added on a new halacha of kailo that you were moisif onto him something that wasn't there before. Now, when he becomes tamei, since even though he couldn't eat this piece before, but now he can't eat this piece because he's tamei in every other piece. So therefore, with this we've had issa moisif and issa kailo. Now, we want to get the on Yom Kippur. There's also an issa kailo, because he was permitted to eat, and now Yom Kippur comes, he can't eat, so it's kailo not eating this as well. That's an issa kailo. And then you have when it's Shabbos and like Rabbi Meir, guys, Shabbos and Yom Kippur come b'vasachas, so therefore it's vasachas. So you have issa moisif from the fact that it was chelev became kodesh or nicer. We have issa kailo because what? Because of Yom Kippur or Tamei, and we have the vasachas, the Reb Meir of what? Of Shabbos in together. So therefore, we just filled in the boxes, right? We needed a man the Amma who held all those 3, kailel, vasachas, and Moisif, and we found it in Reb Meir. Beautiful. Says the Gemara one more time. The Tanya, Yeshoichel achila achas v'chayv lo arba chatois v'ashem echad. The Hashem echad guys is to be moral behegdish. We didn't count that. Tami shachal chelev u'noisim in Mikdashim Yom Kippur. Reb Meir oimim ha'is Shabbos v'yitzim mipiv chayev. So Amar told Reb Meir amen Hashem. Right? It's not from the shame. Why? Because we wanted to do in the act of achila. Bringing it around your mouth is not achila. We wanted the achila that you chayev by eating, and the eating itself was mechayev me. You're eating on some say that. So we're not discussing what's something an issa that's non-edible. We're only discussing the edible achila. Now, Reb Meir liber deman, guys, we have a Mishnah, a Gemara in the Perik Shabbos called Pirkei D'Releza de Mila. Let me give you the background that side. We know that Mila is Doicha Shabbos. That if it's the 8th day, it's Doicha Shabbos. Good. Let's say you have 2 children in front of you. One whose 8th day is on Shabbos. One whose 8th day is on Sunday, and you go ahead and blow it. What did you do? Instead of doing the Shabbos kid, you did the Sunday kid. Says Machlokes whether you chayiv or not, whether you oisik bin a mitzvah, v'lo yasa mitzvah. So here you oisik bin a mitzvah, you oisik the mitzvah of Mila, which you were permitted to do, v'lo yasa Mila, because you gave a Mila to a kid who's not one. So Machlokes in Rebbe Lezer and Bishua. Says the Gemara. You're telling me over here. So who are we going to? Iya liber Rebbe Yeshua. If you're saying that what you're going to according to Rabbi Yeshua is of the opinion that oisik min mitzvah, you pata min mitzvah. Oisik min mitzvah, you pata what? You pata from a mitzvah. Good. So you'll be pata. So why in our Mishnah, when b'shogeg you were being oisik in the midst of pir v'rivya of getting married, why would you be chayev? You're oisik in a mitzvah, v'lo yasa mitzvah, because it wasn't your wife, right? It's the same thing. I was oisik in Mila and it wasn't a Mila. So if you hold your pata, so you should not be chayev the 4 chatos in our Mishnah. In other words, going back over our Mishnah, we're saying, who's our Mishnah according to? Reb Meir. Good, very good. Now, why? Because you have all 3. Fasachas, Moisef, and Kailo. Yes? Says the Gemara, if Reb Meir in the Shita of the Machloikis between Reb Yeshua and Reb Eliezer and Pikad Reb Zamila, who's he going according to there? Because apparently you have a heter over here. Not a heter, you have you're able to whitewash the chiyuvim. Since I'm Isaac mitzvah trying to get married and having children, v'lo yasa mitzvah. So if I hold by Mila, Isaac mitzvah v'lo yasa mitzvah pata, I'd be pata over here as well. That's Rabbi Yeshua, says the Gemara. Very, very nice now. A person is tired b'dvar mitzvah, pata. So therefore in our Mishnah he'd also be pata, because he thought he's doing a mitzvah by going in and getting married. Ella aliba de Rabbi Eliezer. Who's he speaking to? It's speaking to the Tana Rabbi Eliezer, who holds Yechayev. Good, very good. I could say a Mishnah is going to Rabbi Yeshua. Kikam Rabbi Yeshua tabedvar mitzvah pata hanimili gabi tinoikis. When you're going ahead and the time is passing and the zman of boil. Aval hai, but over here when he's getting married, even in zman of boil, loy. He doesn't have to get married now. He can get married anytime. So therefore, over here, it's not such a pressing thing. You want to say that the Mishnah is according to Rabbi Eliezer and not Rabbi Yeshua. I guess it's schwer to say that because we don't paskin like Rabbi Eliezer. Again, the halacha is not Rabbi Eliezer Shamuti, either he's the Talmud Beis Shammai or he was the Chayra, and we don't paskin like him. So Machlokes Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, we paskin like Rabbi Yeshua. So apparently now the Gemara, the way we're zetzing behind the Gemara, it's going against the normal psak. So therefore, we want to go ahead and say the second teretz is even according to Rabbi Yeshua, which is something we would want. How can it work out according to Rabbi Yeshua? I can make a chilik between Rabbi Yeshua the Mila and our Mishnah by Nesuin. Rabbi Yeshua the Mila says the following. I'll tell you why you putter. You have a time frame over here. You have to do it on the 8th day, and therefore, since there's a shasat chak, so to say, and the zman bohol. The Zman is confusing, so to say. Therefore, then you putter. Mashen came by our Mishnah, you don't have to get married that day. You get married any day you want. There's no Zman Bol. It's not limited to time. You create the time. It's not like the 8th day, which I have no choice. You create the time. The Me'luma, Rabbi Yeshua would agree in our Mishnah that Torah b'davar mitzvah, where you do not have what? The Zman Bol, you would be chayev. So even it can be the time of a Mishnah. So you're not limited to saying it's Rabbi Eliezer. You can even say it's Rabbi Yeshua. And it's a chilik between Zman Bo and not Zman Bo. Very good, Shema. Fred the Gemara, is that really true? Says the Gemara. You want to tell me that's true? Right? Bahari Truma, Dein Zman Bo, the Achila of Truma, which the Zman is not giving you a rush, ukapater, and you pater, ditnan. Right? You're eating truma, and it becomes known shehu ben garusha ben chalutza that you're a chalal, a kohen that's born as a result of his mother was a chalutza or a garusha. He's considered a chalal and he can't eat truma. So Rabbi Eliezer mechayev keren v'chaimish. Rabbi Eliezer mechayev me a keren and a chaimish like a shogeg. You have to pay the principal and modern an additional 5th. Rabbi Yeshua paita. Rabbi Yeshua says, why? He's Torah b'davar mitzvah. He thought he was a kohen. He thought it's a mitzvah to eat truma, and therefore he pata. I over here, Zman's not boil. So you see that that even when it's not dependent upon time, because you can eat truma any time. Since you can eat truma at any time, still Rabbi Yeshua holds that that you pata. So then that our Mishnah can't be according to Rabbi Yeshua, because he sees that even he holds that then even lo Zman bo, because truma is similar to Nesuin, which is not contingent upon time. Says we learned on that Mishnah in Truma that Amar Rav Bibi Barabaya Hacha b'Truma be'erev Pesach Haskina and Yana Diyomer Rabbi Rosenzweig says about here it's speaking about this man is erev Pesach, and you want to go ahead and eat up all your Truma because you don't want to have a chametz problem, guys. You don't want to have to burn truma that's tahar. You don't want to have to burn truma that's tahar. So therefore, it's a zman bohol. It's a good shmaka teretz, right? It's a time slot. So enochinami, a teretz is a good teretz. When does Rabbi Yeshua say that tahar b'davar mitzvah is only zman bohol? You said truma is not zman bohol. No, truma is zman bohol. Why? Because since it's erev Pesach, you want to get rid of it. For who adin our Mishnah, which is not zman bohol, Rabbi Yeshua would agree that what? That it's tahar b'davar mitzvah, and you be chayiv, and therefore you be chayiv the four eishasach, atzisha, and nida. Says the Gemara. The Ibay Sema, another possible teretz, another possible teretz going back on our Mishnah. Now, this is not going back on this manbol, it's going back on our Mishnah. What did our Mishnah say? The Mishnah was according to who? According to Rabbi. The Mishnah was according to Rabbi what? Rabbi Meir. The Mishnah was according to Rabbi Meir. And we wanted to learn it's a koilel, it's a moisif, right? It's a koilel, it's a moisif, and vasachas. Good? Freg Moshe Yehuda Stern, why did you have to say that it's speaking? In that scenario, you could even say it's speaking vasachas. Also ich steht in Gemara. Says the Gemara. Viva Yisema. Be'isiv vasachas. V'aliv Reb Shimon. Guys, remember, in Issa Chalalissa, Reb Shimon could say b'vasachas you be chayev. Because it's very good, it's a strong svara. Why is this ein Issa Chalalissa? Once I have an existing Issa, how am I getting another one to be chal? In other words, how do you pile on? So there are svaras to pile on. It's a moisif, it's a kail if you hold that, but stamazoi it doesn't work. B'vasachas, you're not piling on. In football terms, the fumble, everyone arrived at the same time. They jumped on the ball at the same time. It wasn't one after the other, the guys pulling it out. Here also, the Mishnah can be speaking, they arrived at the same time. Let's see the case. Good. V'aliv Shimon. Now, guys, let's go through each one. Could it be that they simultaneously got married? Therefore, you have Eishes Ish, the Eishes Ach. You had a simultaneous marriage. So therefore, they all became Asar of Eishes Ach. They all became Asar of Achas Ishtoi, and they also all became Asar als Eishes Ish. That's simultaneously. The fourth one, the neither, is the problem. How does the neither come here? It can't be that she was a neither at that time. It has to be it was mutter and the neither came, which is what I told you. Says the Gemara. So says the Gemara. Bishlei makula eishes ish, eishes ach, achas ishtoi, mishkachas lahu, yishavinu shliach, v'shava inu shliach, upaga shliach b'shliach. What happens is the following: two brothers made a man a shliach to get them married. Two sisters made a man a shliach to makabel kedushin. They met up with each other. Perfect case. They go ahead and they make the transaction. All of a sudden, you have three dinim. They all become eishes ish simultaneously, achas ishtay simultaneously, and eishes ach simultaneously. Beautiful. The fourth scenario of nida. How do you find out b'vasachas? So Amar Amram, Amar Rav. B'sheifas mitoch yud gimel la'acher shleish esrei l'chiyuvi in hu, and mitoch shtei mesel la'acher shtei mesel l'chiyuvi in he. A man is not chayiv till he's 13 in a day. A girl is not chayiv; she's 12 in a day. This guy makes a shliach. Now this is the problem. Rashi says that Tosfos finds a problem with this. He makes a shliach to makabel kedushin, and when he accepted the kedushin, right? It took place when they were 13 and 12. Then it goes Then they all transpired at the same time. She began seeing blood. The girl began seeing blood before she was 12, right? And now what happened was, as the chalois of all these three things, and the need is there, that's the way it would happen with vasachas. It's a shver Rashi. How does the Tanaya of cotton help before? But again, we will go weiter. That's the case with vasachas. I'm not going to spend time on this.
Twins.
What?
And everyone's twins.
What do you mean?
The sisters have to be twins, to be the same age.
Yes, they would have to be twins, right? Moshe points out they would have to be twins, the sisters and the brothers. With the what?
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
That's what happens to the other side of the page.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Baruch Hashem, no one here uses that side of the page. Okay. He's fooling me. See, he has this over here. He has it on his side. So guys, Yeah, they'd have to be twins, right? You'd have to have twins marrying twins, or else how can they all be 13 or all be 12 on the same, right? They have to be the same time.
Yeah, Art Scroll says that. Art Scroll talks that out.
As did Moshe Yehuda Stern right here, and my Chavrusa, who's not supposed to be looking at it also. So we have we have the hat trick over here. Okay, but since someone doesn't always look at Art Scroll, I did not know that, so I appreciate the information. But it's fascinating, no? It's fascinating how the case, guys. It's a very case. I'm going quickly. Rashi is a difficult Rashi, but for understanding the Mishnah, it works. Okay, so let's just recap. We saw a Mishnah. How did we get into this? Because we've been doing the sugya with Issachar Alissa, right? We got into the sugya if a man would have relations with a woman who was his wife's sister and his brother's wife. So again, Rabbi Yossi said Yechayev twice, and Rabbi Shimon said Yechayev once. We got into Issa Koilel, Issa Moisef, Issa Vasachas, and therefore the Mishnah brought in a case where you have all four. You have a case of Eshesach, a case of Achasisha, case of Nida. All four came back. We had Issa Koilel, we had Issa Moisef, we had Issa Vasachas. That was only according to Reb Meir. According with answering right now, you're not locked into saying that was the Hechatimsa of the Mishnah. I can tell you the following. We forget about Issa Koilel, forget about Issa Moisef. It's not Reb Meir who spoke about a case of a Tomei eating kachim that was nicer on Yom Kippur. It's speaking about a simple case where you had two twins making a shliach to Mekadesh, and two twin girls making a shliach. They come together, they accept kedushin, and you're getting b'vasachas all of these. Very good. Okay, so therefore you have no raya. Says the Mishnah. We said the din of havchana, that mafrishin I said you would go ahead and separate them. You would go ahead and separate them. That for 3 months that you should ascertain who was the father of the child that's born. Says the Gemara, a logistical problem. A woman can't get pregnant from the first relation. The first relation she has, she can't get pregnant. It seems the breaking of the basulim is the problem. If they're breaking the basulim, she's not going to get pregnant the first time. So apparently we're speaking over here a scenario where it was only a one-shot deal. If they realized the mistake after the first relation, after the first bia, and we have to separate 3 months. Why do you have to separate 3 months? If women don't get pregnant from the first bia, there's no concern that she's pregnant. Pasha Kasha, there's no concern. So Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabbi Ravua, Shebolu b'shano. He repeated it. He repeated the act. In other words, you're right. It's not speaking about there was one bia, there was 2 bias. Since there was 2 bia, she could have gotten pregnant from the second bia. Fred Gemara, you have a problem with that. Reb Chia says you have in this scenario, right? You have the Isavashis Ach, the Isavachas Isavashis Ish, and the Ishav Nida times 4 is 16. According to you, you'd have 32. If there's a repetition of the act, you'd have 32. So it says the Gemara, Tilsin v'tartin havi, it's 16. It's 32, not 16. So says, and the Gemara, according to your reasoning, Rebbe Eliezer, who you established that we're speaking according to, because Rebbe Eliezer says Torah b'dvay mitzvah yibichayev, he's of the opinion of Mechayev, I'll call achas, I'll call koyach for koyach. Then tuva havin. The Gemara discusses, fellas, if a man realizes that he's doing an avera, he has to wait till he's inside the isha. He has to wait till his aver subsides to pull out, because there's hanafai pulling out as well. Rabbi Les is mechayev on each action of each penetration going back and forth. He'd be chayev. So if that's the case, why are you limiting to even in one bia? You could have many, right? So therefore, Ella, what do you have to say? We're only considering the first one. I'm only considering what? The first one. So we have a kasha. So if I'm only considering the first bia, then so Amalei Rav Nachman. Okay, so l'chayra, we're good. L'chayra, we only considering the first woman. Einachinami, Linyan Mu'uberish, she could have been pregnant. When a Chia said 16, you're only mechayev for the first bia, but there could have been many more. There could have been 32. There could have been Rabbi Eliezer, many more. Well, when he said 16, he was always going in the first bia. But regarding the halacha of waiting to ascertain who the father is, it was speaking where there was a repetition. Now we're going to get into what do you mean a woman can't be pregnant from the first bia. Now we know that Yehuda had a daughter-in-law, Tamar. Tamar was married to two men. She was married to who died. She was married to Ona, who died. And then she ended up with Yehuda. Says the Gemara. For Tamar Babi Rishoina Ibra, she was what? She was this Abra from Yehuda. In other words, Erva Oina never consummated the marriage, as we're going to see. They never consummated the marriage, so she was a Basula when she married Yehuda. If that's the case, then we know Yehuda was with on the record, he was only with her once. There's machlokes whether he stayed with her afterwards or not, but he was with her once, and she got pregnant with the twins, Zerach Uperetz. Amalei Tamar be'etzba ma'acha. Tamar, again, would make sense, guys. The whole reason Tamar was with Yehuda, she saw that Malchus was going to come from Yehuda, and she wanted very much to go ahead and get pregnant, so she broke up a sulam herself. Since she broke up a sulam herself, it didn't have a dinner of Bia Rishina. The Amar of Yitzchak, Kol Ma'oichais shel Beis Rebbe, all the girls in Beis Rebbe's house who had gone ahead and broken their besulim, this Tamar Shman, they were called Tamar. V'lama nikra shema Tamar. Why did they call it Tamar? Al shem Tamar shemacha betzba. Because they did the same, they repeated the same thing, that they broke the besulim, that they should get pregnant right away. Read the Gemara, v'havi erev v'oinan. How could you say that Tamar got pregnant from the first pregnancy? She had been previously married to two other men. So obviously it wasn't the first pregnancy. And for the Gemara, erev v'oinan shimshin shalei kedarka. Erva Oinan were not mishamish in the makam of the erva; they were mishamish in another part of the body. So therefore, since it was not naturally, therefore what it was, shah besulim are intact, and therefore by Tamar it was by Tamar and Yehuda was via Rishina.
I seem to recall Rashi in Chumash that says he was. It's like dash mi b'fnim and zarei mi b'chutz.
Meisivei kol esrim ba'arba chaydesh, all 24 months. This is speaking about when a woman is nursing. We're worried about. We had this earlier in the Masechta, fellows, on Daf Yud Beis Amid Beis. Shloisha Meshemeshes b'moich. 3 women can use a contraceptive, right? And one of the women was a woman who was nursing. Our concern is if she gets pregnant, her milk will get sour and the child will die. So says Rebbe Elazar, here's what you do in that scenario. How do you have relations if you're nursing? Is all 12 months of you nursing the child, the man he has relations inside, but when it comes to releasing of zera, he does it outside. These are what? These are the words of Rabbi Eliezer. So why are you locked into saying that there was bia shloi kedarka? As once you say, like Rabbi Rosenzweig said, that what there was a bia was kedarka, but what if that's the case? Then she wasn't a basula. She wasn't a basula, and it was a rei b'chutz. So Amalei halalu ein el kamaisa erev oinan. Over there, that means there was only like the maisa of erev oinan. Says so Amalei halalu einu el kamaisa erev oinan. So that's the kasha. The kasha is that this is only what like erev oinan. That mashma the erev oinan did like Rabbi Rosenzweig just stated. If erev oinan with dash b'fnim was a rei b'chutz, so it doesn't mean it was like kedarka. It means it was bia kedarka, but there was never a chance of her getting pregnant. But it's hadro kashla duchte. How can you say that Yehuda with Tamar was the bia rishina? In fact, it wasn't. If they were dash b'fnim zarei b'chutz, that's the Gemara's kasha. On that, the Gemara answers kemaisa erva oinan v'lei kemaisa erva oinan. Ve'emes erva oinan was shloi kedarka, guys. But there was a similarity. What was the similarity? Both erva oinan did not want Tamar to get pregnant. So erva oinan dichsiv v'hoya imbo el eshes achiv b'shiches arza, right? Like that Oinon he was with it, but what he did not go ahead and he was mighty zer levatala. V'loy k'maiser Oinon dila hasam be'erva Oinon shloi kedarka v'hacha kedarka. Here it's kedarka. So it says means when it says the 24 months that you go ahead and you dash b'fnim zarei b'chutz like erva Oinon, it doesn't mean exactly like erva Oinon. The commonality was it was like erva oinon that the seed never was in the vaginal canal of the woman, but it wasn't like erva oinon because erva oinon was shaloi kedarka, and over there by weaning of a woman it was kedarka. But the bottom line is it was like erva oinon that the zera did not end up in the place where you can impregnate the woman. For the Gemara, and for the Gemara, very geschmack that the bia rishina was what was with Tamar by Yehuda. How'd she get pregnant? She broke up basulim. She was married before. She was married for the man who never consummated the marriage. B'makam basulim. I have a kasha from what? From nursing. That's not a kasha because nursing speaking similar to Ervoinon. The fact that the zera wasn't in the right spot, right? One was bechutz and one was in another part of the body. However, it's not. But Ein Nami was not like Ervoinon because Ervoinon was not in the normal place of Anisha, and this one was. Yeah, Rashi explained. Now, just to literally close up loose ends. Right? Ella, that mamish that he allowed his seed to go in the ground. So we know that what it wasn't that he wanted to get pregnant. Ella ermino. How do you know er? So how do you know er? So Amrav Nachman Vayitzach Dechsiv by Yomas Gam Oisoi that Oinon died also like him. In other words, when it says Gam Oisoi, it's mashma he died for the same reason that er died. Afu Boisa Misa Mace. So everyone died of the same Misa. What they were Maitzi Zerabim V'chutz. Why did Einan do it, guys? Because Einan, he didn't want the child to be named after him. He wanted his own child. He didn't want the child to be named after his brother. He felt that it wasn't supposed to be him. El Er my timer. Why was Er worried about her getting pregnant? Says Avad. My time Avad Hachi says more Kadesh like this. It seems Tamar was an exceedingly beautiful. And he was worried that if she gets pregnant, it would take away from her beauty, and therefore that was their motivation. The bottom line is, how do we get into this? Again, just to recap, the Mishnah said that if in fact two women get mixed up and they have relations, they have to wait 3 months before they can reconvene their marriage. For the Gemara, why do you have to wait 3 months if the first bia cannot possibly go ahead and create a child? The Gemara says that there was a repetition of the bia. There was a repetition of the bia. Now, side point, how do you know a woman can't be pregnant from the first bia? We see Tamar got pregnant. And if the Gemara, Tamar had in fact broken the basulam, right? Tamar had broken the basulam. Says, he asked Gemara Kasha from, how can you say that? Why do you have to say she broke the basulam? She was previously married to 2 men. And for the Gemara, the 2 men she was previously married to had not consummated the marriage in the normal way. Okay? We asked the Kasha from what? From that they were like a woman weaning and dash b'fnim is already b'chutz, which is the normal way of having relations. Says the Gemara, no, they were like that and not like that. They were like that in the fact that they didn't go ahead and use the zera in the right spot, but not like that because there were different locales. Okay, that was the teretz, and that's what very good. Okay, the pasuk says yesterday's parsha, by the way, says in the parsha, the isha asher yishrav ish oisah shichva zera. And a man that lies with a woman and he admits shechva zera, and what they should go to the mikvah, v'tamei ad ha'arav, v'tamei to the evening. Now, a person who sees Kerry, guys, is tamei. A person that the Kerry touches is tamei. The Gemara tells us that shechva zera is an avatuma. It can be metam and adam. A woman, this is fascinating. We need a pasuk to tell us that a woman is tamei. Why? Because the tumah of a woman is based hastarim, where the zera touches the woman is in a concealed place. It touches her in the vaginal canal. That's a concealed place. So therefore, the tumah of ish ki yiga, anyone who touches what zera, she would be tamei. So it needs a special pasuk to tell me that she has to go to the mikvah in that scenario. Good. That's the background to this Gemara. Says the Gemara, Tanabana. The pasuk says, "Oisa v'isha sheyishka v'oisa." What does oisa mean? Prat lekala. That the kala doesn't have to go to the mikvah after the first bia. She doesn't have to go to the mikvah. It seems why. It's because shichva zera means you need one that's a shichva that's capable of mazriyat, capable of fertilizing. And since, as we said, a woman is not misabe from bia rishona, it's not capable of fertilizing, so therefore she would not have to go to the mikvah. She touched the shechva zera again. Tumis beis hastarim is not tamei. Guys, good. Says the Gemara. Rabbi Yehuda. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. The oisa comes to exclude the kala from having to go to the mikvah. No, prat l'shaloi kedarka. Again, shaloi kedarka in another place of the body, it would not be matama. Why? Because you can't go ahead and and impregnate a woman that way, that's what it comes to exclude. But like the Chachamim, a Kala would have to go to the mikvah. Amalei Hoin, Bereder of Nachman. Very, very, we don't have them too often, if we do have them at all. Amalei Hoin, Bereder of Nachman, it's a Yerushalmi name. Hoin said, the son of Nachman, Rav Nachman, Lema Kosova Reb Yehuda, that we don't require the Kala to go to the mikvah, that a Torah Chasa al Tachshite Kala, she's going to have to take off her makeup. Guys, she's going to have to take off her makeup. So therefore, the Torah Mamish, he's giving her time of the cry. You know why the woman doesn't have to go to the mikvah? Is because what? She's old fatpitz, the kala is fatpitz, right? Special achas of kala, you get fatpitz. The fish einishim is aberes mivir amalei. No, that's not the reason. The reason is the fish einishim is aberes mivir rishayna. That's the reason. And again, the isha sheyishko is a shechva zera. It has to be shechva that has the kala to mazriya. Since it's not mazriya, therefore. So now, yet the Rabbanan said no. The Rabbanan said the kala does have to go to the mikvah. The Ma'akamif, the Rabbanan Sarvi. Shechva zera prat lahara. Lahara means the first stage of bia. It doesn't mean the complete stage where a person goes ahead and gives off zera. It means the opening stage. There's a machlokes we'll see later on the Masechta. Is the opening stage just even when the male genitalia touches the woman's genitalia, or you need the aver to enter a little bit, what's called chnasus atara, whatever that is. Gemar bia will be the completion of the act. Says the Gemara. So. Savich shechva zer is prat lahara. I saw is prat l'shalei kedarka. Rabbi Yehuda Sava shalei kedarka vara mishechva zer and afka. Since neither one has the capacity, because it's not in an area that possibly can go ahead and impregnate, and therefore I saw is prat l'kala. He also Ravim of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi came up from Eretz. He said name Rabbi Yochanan. Kol shesha acha bala eseshanim. Anyone who waits 10 years. 10 years after marriage, v'nisas, and then gets married, shiveni yeled that she won't give birth anymore. So if a woman's almana for 10 years, waits 10 years and gets married, the Chachamim tell us that what she won't get pregnant. Rav Nachman, that's only if she doesn't want to get married. No, she doesn't have the knowledge to get married. A psychological birth control. Unbelievable. Rabbi is saying if a woman is an almana, right? A woman's almana after she had been married, and now she waits 10 years before remarrying, she won't have a child. And qualifying that, Rav Nachman saying that's only if she never wanted to get married. But if it's basis to get married, Miss Aberes, then she could get pregnant. Okay, so therefore we have a little addendum to this thing. Amalei Rava lebas Rav Chisda, said Rava to bas Rav Chisda. This is his wife. This is such a crazy Gemara. Moshe, this is what we were discussing the other day. Guys, listen to this conversation. It's Gemara Baba Basra Daf Yud Beis on the base. It says la'acha churban abayis le'nitin nevua el l'shaitu ketanim. This is such a crazy thing. My grandson Yisrael Neumann, all of 5 years old, I think a week ago or a few days ago, told my daughter that the child's name is going to be Sarah, that the baby born is going to be Sarah. My daughter gives birth to a baby girl, and yesterday they named her Sarah. So we quoted the Gemara in Baba Basra Yebez that you see after the Churban Abayis, who knows the Binavu, who knows Ruach HaKodesh, is children, and the Raya was from my grandchild. The Gemara is describing. The Gemara there in Baba Basra is describing that the daughter of Chisda was sitting on Rav Chisda's lap, and sitting in front of Rav Chisda was two men, Rava and Rami Bar Chama. And Rav Chisda said, I guess facetiously maybe, to his daughter, which one of them do you want to marry? And she said, both. And she says, both. Rami Bar Chama, she marries. He dies. Rava was married to another woman. And after Rava's widow died, then Rava married her. And she had children from Rava. And I guess there was discrepancy between Rava and Rami Bar Chama was more than 10 years. So here's the conversation that takes place. Isn't that fascinating?
Rava said, I want to be second, right?
Yeah, Rava said, I want to be second because he didn't want to die first.
I guess it was.
Yeah. So now, so therefore, it says the Gemara. So Amalei Rav lebas Rav Chisda, Kamaran Rabbanan Abasrech. The Rabbanan, they're going to go ahead and they're going to be murmuring about you. They're going to be gossiping about you that you had children from me. So Amalei, so she told Rava, Ano daito alayach havei. My das was upon you. In other words, I had told my father, I want you, both of you. So even after I lost my Berchama and you were married to another woman, my das was upon you. And what did Rav Nachman say? When do we say you're not going to have a woman? It's only if the das is not to be married. Since my das was to be married, so Mamela what? Geschmack Gemara, guys. There was this woman that came from the Rabbi Yosef. Amuloi, Rebbe, Anoshisi Acha Bali Eseshanim. I waited after 10 years. I waited 10 years and I gave birth. That's what she told Rabbi Yosef. Amulei. So Rabbi Yosef told the Biti, Al Taitzi Laz Al Devi Chachamim. You can't be Maitzi Laz in Chachamim. If the Chacham said that you're not going to have a child, you're not going to have a child. So you can be Maitzi Laz. So Amulei, she told him the truth. I did have relations in that 10-year period. I had a relationship with a guy in that 10-year period. So you see that, wow, it wasn't a full 10 years. Right, the reminder of Moshe's story, famous story of Moshe, that a woman showed up. She said that she was an aguna, and she got a heter and rabbanim from a certain rav, and then the husband showed up, the first husband. And she told Moshe the story, and Moshe said, I knew that rav, say it again. And again, Rav Moshe made it repeat it again and again. I knew that Rav. And finally the woman broke down and said she never got a heta from that Rav. She had heard his name in the concentration camp and she used his name, but she never got a heta. They asked Rav Moshe, why are you so strong? He goes, I knew that Rav. If he paskin that she can remarry, there's no way in the world the husband would have showed up. Mama's the same mice over here, right? If the Chachamim said you can't have a child after 10 years, it's not going to happen. If you had a child and she finally broke down, this woman said the truth, yes, I was both to a. Okay, I think we're going to stop over here. Guys, this evening, what I'd like to do very